This video is a very brief introduction to the MARC Bibliographic Format, just enough to help you determine which WorldCat records match the item you're cataloging and help you select the appropriate record. The acronym MARC stands for Machine Readable Cataloging. It's a data indexing system that allows computers to store and exchange and manipulate cataloging data created by humans. It provides a way, for example, to tell computers which piece of data is the title and which piece is the publication date. Here are the parts of a MARC record. The field is a basic container of data in a MARC record. Each field has a specific kind of bibliographic data. Tags serve as shorthand that identifies what the data in the field is. For example, 245 is title information. Indicators provide computers with information about how to treat the field. In the title field, for example, there is a non-filing indicator. If we have an English title, the history of art, in a title browse display, we want to begin filing on the second word, history, rather than the, so we set the non-filing indicator to 4 to tell the computer to disregard the and the space following it. Indicators have different functions in different fields. Some fields use indicators, and some do not. Subfields are what they sound like. They're smaller sections of fields. Subfield codes tell a computer what kind of data is in the subfield. For example, in the 245 field, subfield C is a statement of responsibility. Computers can't tell whether a character is a subfield code or part of the data. A delimiter tells the computer where the subfield starts. In this example, which is part of a title field, the tag is 245. The first indicator value is 1, and the second indicator value is 0. The double dagger character is a delimiter. In some OCLC cataloging interfaces, the $, rather than the double dagger, is used as a delimiter character. The subfield code is A, and Life Reimagined is the content of subfield A. This is an example of part of a MARC bibliographic record in OCLC cataloging interfaces. You can see the tags in the first column, the indicators in the next two columns, and the subfields in the last column. In OCLC cataloging interfaces, if subfield A is the first subfield in a field, and it usually is, the delimiter and subfield code for subfield A are suppressed from display. Next, we'll take a more detailed look at some of the fields from this example. We'll cover just a few fields that are important for matching and selecting bibliographic records. The 040 field contains codes that tell which institutions did the cataloging. Subfield A identifies the cataloging source, in other words, what institution did the intellectual work of cataloging. Subfield B is the language of cataloging, in other words, the language of the bibliographic record, as opposed to the language of the resource that the record describes, which is recorded in other fields. Subfield E is not always present, but when it is, it has a code for rules used in the record, such as RDA for resource description and access. Subfield C identifies the institution that entered the record, and subfield D identifies any institutions that have edited the record since it was entered. 245 is a title statement. Subfield A is the title, subfield B is the remainder of title or subtitle, and subfield C is the statement of responsibility. In other words, who is responsible for the intellectual or artistic content of the resource. The edition statement is in field 250. This would include statements such as second edition, reprinted with corrections, and so on. Publication data is in either the 260 or the 264 field, depending on the cataloging rules used to create the record. Subfield A has a place of publication, for example, San Francisco. Subfield B has the publisher name, and subfield C has a date of publication, for example, 2013. The physical description is in the 300 field. This is the physical characteristics of the item. Subfield A is the extent, for example, 173 pages, or 1 video disc, or 3 volumes. Subfield B has other physical details, such as illustrations. And subfield C has dimensions of the item, such as 28 centimeters, or 4 3/4 inches. The 490 field is not always present, but if it is, it contains information about a series that the item is a part of. For example, the 3 individual titles, The Effect of Prices on Nutrition, Urban Population and Amenities, and Driving to Opportunity, are all part of the NBER Working Paper series. We've covered only a few of the most important fields. For complete information on tags, indicators, and subfield codes in WorldCat records, consult Bibliographic Formats and Standards at oclc.org/bibformats/en.html. Another source for information about MARC is the Library of Congress MARC Standards page at loc.gov/MARC. Understanding MARC Bibliographic is a good introduction, and it's written for beginners. And you can go to help.oclc.org for documentation and contact information for OCLC support in your region. Thanks for watching.